Welcome back to 52 Lockup. I am your Apple Teen Cadma of Bitten Apple TV. 52 Lockup is a series I started to talk about one of my biggest passions, true crime. A new episode in every week, 52 weeks, 52 crimes. Hope you guys enjoy. Be sure to like, leave some feedback, and subscribe, of course. And as always, viewer discretion is always advised. So let's travel across the pond over to West London. And unfortunately, in Croydon of 2021, many teenagers were actually being stabbed and killed. Like 18-year-old Hazrat Wali, who had fled to London for a better life and ends up being stabbed to death on a Twickenham playing field on October 12th, 2021. Because he was sitting in a park with a friend who happens to be a young lady. Was not approved, stabbed and killed. You can take a look at 14-year-old Jermaine Cools. He killed in front of a shop due to some groups fighting outside. And he was known to be he was a mummy's boy. He was very close with his mom. They were very, very close. They did everything together, absolutely everything. He would die on November 18th, 2021. So now Jermaine would actually be the 27th teenager stabbed and killed in this particular area of that year. That's a lot. There's only 12 months of the year. So we now are entering into the British Sikh community. And for those who may not know, Sikhs are from the religion Sikhism. This is a combination of religion and philosophy founded in the Punjab region of the Indian subcontinent in the late 15th century, at least according to Britannica. Sikhs refer to their faith as Gurmat, which in Punjabi means the way of the Guru. There are nearly 25 million Sikhs worldwide, so you're going to find these communities everywhere. So now, Rishmeet, and I apologize if I'm butchering the name, but Rishmeet Singh was born to his mother, Gulinder, and his father in Afghanistan. Unfortunately, I don't have the name of his father. He was very well described as sweet, and he was doted on by both of his parents. Being that his family were Afghan Sikhs, and fortunately his father his life would come to a tragic end and was killed by the Taliban. There are limited details to exactly how and where online, but the only resources I could find was that his father did die in April 2019 in Afghanistan. 6 months later, the same members who murdered his father would actually attempt to kidnap Rishmeet. Now, Rishmeet, his mother and his grandmother, they're like, we can't have this. So they actually would end up arriving in Britain October 2019 to seek asylum from Jalabad in Afghanistan. Now, the Singh family grieved the loss of his father, and motivated by the death of his father, and of course, naturally by his personality, he was actually attending college by completing a public service course because his goal was to become a police officer. He wanted to help people, and that's I would say that's a normal thing, right? When you have trauma yourself, you want to extend out and help others, right? So we have 16-year-old Rishmeet. He's out enjoying hanging out with his friends, and when you look at his friends, they describe him as kind and warm-hearted, and he loves sporting his fake Gucci bag that apparently looked very good, looked quite authentic. That only becomes relevant later. However, his warm heart towards others would not be reciprocated on November 24th, 2021. Rishmeet would be meeting up with his friends, unfortunately, what would become the last time on November 24th. They were hanging out at the local park. He was wearing his little fake Gucci bag, and he would begin to part ways from them at 9 p.m., and he was walking home in South Hall. So Rishmeet, along this walk, right, would spot two unknown young teenage men running and just booking it towards him. Recognizing this is potentially dangerous, Rishmeet would immediately turn around and begin running back towards his friends. Now, he begins screaming and yelling for his friends to get help, but he's also screaming at them. What they remember him saying is, run. In hot pursuit of Rishmeet are both 17-year-old Vanushan and Balakrishnan and Ilyas Suleiman. They're actually from Wayland and St. Jerome's Grove of Hillington. Now, as Rishmeet is running down Rayleigh Road, he unfortunately trips and he falls. Within no seconds of him being on the floor, one of the boys, who I believe is Vanushan, leaps on top of Rishmeet and begins stabbing him with Ilyas to follow up with additional stabbing. Now, Vanushan stabs Rishmeet 5 times, and Ilyas would stab him an additional 10 times. That's leaving 15 stab wounds. Their attack on Rishmeet would last 27 seconds. And the attackers would just immediately, they flee the scene. 999 emergency services are called. London ambulance service arrives a few minutes later, but there was very little that they can do. So people can survive being stabbed, right? The problem is, once the item has been removed from the body, the person is going to begin to bleed out. And as you can imagine, with multiple wounds, he bled out to death on scene. Unfortunately, paramedics were not able to save him, and he died rather quickly. Once a person has lost about 1/5 of their blood volume, there's very little you can do unless you can give them blood. Without that, your heart and your brain is done. His mother would tell the news, and I quote her, "He has been raised with so much love, and now he's gone. I am struggling to understand as to how and why this happened to my baby boy. I feel I have lost everything, and my life is over. I will never get over losing him in this way. I will never see him grow up into a young man. I will not see him leave college. I will not see him fulfill his aspirations. I will not see him learn to drive. I will not see him fall in love and get married. I will not become a grandmother and see my son grow old. I have been robbed of so many future events. I have lost my husband, and now I have lost my only child, my son. Justice is finally served for Rishmeet, but their sentence will never be enough for me. They have taken my whole life away from me, and Rishmeet will never come home again." So, fortunately, the UK has over 7 million CCC TV cameras now. So the murder investigation ensues, and through tracking Rishmeet's movements right before and after the attack is what led them to the perpetrators of Balakrishnan and Suleiman, who were 17-year-old at the time of the crime. So police would learn that the 2 young men had left their apartment or flat, because we were in London, before 9 p.m. And they were out there changing their clothes, arming themselves with knives. Balakrishnan would be wearing like dark trousers with a white stripe behind the knee. They covered their face with a COVID-19 mask. Essentially, they're demonstrating there is a strong intent to murder someone. They're preparing themselves. The young men would ride their bicycles to the canal towpath where they spot Rishmeet. They see him saying goodbye to his friends. He's on the bridge. They see him. They realize now he is walking alone. Now he is a target. They choose to drop their bikes. They park him over to the side and begin chasing him on foot, as well as trying to sneak up on him rather quickly. Officers actually end up discovering that the young men's cell phones would show that Suleiman had ordered a taxi back to Austin Road, where he came from that night, right before 9:30. So this all happens relatively quickly. Then catches a cab to Balakrishnan's home on Scotland Yard. They just simply go on about their lives as if nothing happened. Balakrishnan would actually be arrested on suspicion of the murder at his home address on December 2nd, 2021. And detectives apparently even found, get this, he wrote song lyrics in his notebook and on his phone, which describes the features and moments of Rishmeet's murder. So he wrote a song about the murder. Of course, he was also keeping tabs on the articles, so they find all this in his Google search. He's looking up things about the murder immediately, like within the hour that it even happened. He was even reading the tributes that his family had written about him. You know, how beloved he was. And his friends and family actually believed he was stabbed for his fake Gucci pouch. Well, apparently, what the family thought about the Gucci pouch was very upsetting to Balakrishnan. That on November 28th, 2021, on his phone, he writes himself a note on the phone And pardon me, because this is a little butchering. Saw news statement, it says, a good Ute, but he was out with pagans. Stupid media, it was a glide, not for some stupid shit he wears. So just so we're clear, and we're on the same page, a glide is a slang for entering a rival's gang territory, right? So he referred to their thinking that he stabbed them for the bag to be more upsetting opposed to the actual murder. He wanted clarification for why he did what he did. It was over gang territory, not over a stupid bag. He would also have a picture of the long knife on his bed with the blood on it, taken at 10:19 p.m. on the day of the murder, although the knives were unfortunately never recovered. So Suleiman decides, it's getting heats out there, it's getting to me, goes into hiding. His mom's like, what's going on? He disappears. She reports him missing for 2 days. Police obtained a search warrant at his home on December 2nd of 2021 after they arrested the other one. He was eventually arrested in Edgware about a week later. The murdering pair of teens would eventually be sentenced together on April 28th, 2022. Their lives gone. And just as a continued side note, the stabbing in Croydon continues. Like, there's a 15-year-old Zayn, Imabli Lena, stabbed on December 30th, 2021, would be killed. And then within an hour later, a 16-year-old actually would follow and be murdered as well. That's to end off the year 2021 in Croydon. Rishmeet's mother, Gulinda, lost her husband and her son literally in under a year. She fled to the UK for safety and was met with brutal, cold-hearted actions of 2 boys looking to prove something, to be part of a gang. Now, according to the American Academy of Children and Adolescent Psychiatry, some adolescents and children are motivated to join a gang for a sense of connection or to define a new sense of who they are. Others are motivated by peer pressure, a need to protect themselves and their family because a family member also is in a gang, or to make money. I wish we could know at least a little bit more in the articles on what was going on in these young men's lives to push them into the mindset of thinking this is okay, or this is the best course of action, to commit cold-blooded murder. A young man with an incredibly bright future ended like that. Unfortunately, gang members may be pressured to commit crimes, right? Like this murder. There are other, and if they don't do what they're told, there are consequences. That also includes being exposed to drugs or alcohol, age-inappropriate sexual acts. There's just so much that goes to this. You know, they could be struggling to find a job, maintain a job, due to lack of education or work skills. Or maybe they were removed from their family due to the tribulations of that particular household. They put themselves into a position where they have no choice but to commit these crimes. Because either that or it's death. We have 1 teenager who's murdered, and then 2 more in jail. Life potential gone. I would love to hear what you guys think in the comments about this case. I want to know, how do you feel about teenage gangs? How do we solve the problem of teenagers who are in this situation? How do we prevent these terrible crimes like this from occurring? Did you yourself join a gang as a teenager, and why did you join it? Did you turn your life around? If so, what pulled you from it? But yeah, it's an incredibly sad case, only to think you're escaping literally one hell only to run into another that seems safe, and then you lose the very last thing in your life. That's today's case. As always, you guys stay vigilant and stay safe.